Hey, it's Nate with another piano tutorial. Today I'm doing Always on My Mind, and I'll be focusing on Elvis's version. Fantastic chord progression and piano part. It's a classic ballad feel, but with a few fun twists that make it a great song to learn. And you can keep it as simple as you want. I'll be adding some cool little variations and 16th note ornamentations that are super fun but totally optional. Let's jump in. All right, so first off, I recommend you get the chords and lyrics chart. There's a link down in the description, and that'll help you follow along and see where the chords and lyrics line up with each other. And it's helpful to know this song is in the key of G major, so all white keys except for Fs are sharped. We do step outside of that briefly for an A7 chord, though. I'm going to skip over the intro for now. Let's start out with the first verse. The chords look like that. We'll start out with a G major chord. We're doing an inversion here. It's going to be D, G, and B. And this is middle C here, so you get the octave right, and then 2 octaves lower with my left hand, first finger, I'll be doing a G bass note. And we're in 4/4 time, so each of these measures gets 4 counts. So we're gonna be on that G for 4 counts. We'll expand on the pattern in a moment, but for now, let's just do quarter notes on the right hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we've got D over F sharp. So the left hand's gonna step down, second finger on F sharp for the bass note, and we can just collapse our right hand into this just root position D major, D, F sharp, and A. 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we've got a measure with 2 chords in it. So E minor, it's just E, G, and B. I can use my third finger there. So that's gonna be 1, 2, and then on 3 and 4, we've got this G over D. So the G chord in the right hand is voiced the exact same way we did it at the beginning of the line, but this time we've got a D bass note. Okay, now we're gonna come down to C. 2, 3, 4. So C major, we've got C, E, and G down here 2 octaves lower on a C bass note with my 5th finger. Now the little dashes are additional counts of C. So this measure, it's not split in half. We've got C, 2, 3, and then stepping up to D on the 4th count. And we're doing that D the same way as we did before, except for this time we're actually doing a D bass note. 1, 2. Maybe I didn't treat you. 3, 4. Quite as good as I should have. 3, 4. And you can hit that C in the left hand again on 3, 4. Okay. Maybe I didn't love you. So this measure starts the exact same way. E minor to G over D. But now we've got this A7. And I'm gonna do octaves in the left hand. So from having my 4th finger on the D to dropping into the A octaves, that's pretty smooth. If you can't make the stretch, just pick one. Maybe the lower one would sound nice. And I'm gonna do a C sharp, E, and G here in the right hand. If you can't make that stretch, you could just do these 3 notes. All right, just one more line of chords here. We've got C, so root position C, C, E, G, and I'm gonna use my 3rd finger in the left hand. 1, 2. Little things I should have said and done. So we've got G over B here. We're doing a different inversion than we did before for the G. This flows really smoothly from the C. You can keep your 5th finger on G. Make sure to use your 2nd finger on that D there. And we've also got B there. And stepping to the B bass note in the left hand on the 4th finger. So again, little things I should have said and done. Now, same thing again, but only 2 counts per chord. I just never took the time. So for this A minor 7, I'm gonna go back to the octaves here. It's kind of building. We're getting towards the start of the chorus. And we're gonna voice this by doing the A octaves and just doing the C chord in the right hand. You could voice the whole thing, but that sounds really great like that. And then we've got C over G. So we've got the A minor 7, 2, and then all that happens here is the left hand octaves or single bass notes step down to a G while we keep doing that C there. Let me do that one more time. Little things I should have said and done. I just never took the time. course, that would be leading into You Were Always on My Mind, which we will do in a moment. But first, I'd like to add a few more details to this. First off, throughout this song, the right hand pattern is mostly going to be doing this seesaw pattern that's super common in this style of piano playing. So we're breaking up the right hand into two parts, the top two notes and the bottom note. And we're rocking back and forth, top, bottom, but we're thinking in eighth notes. So not just thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, but dividing the beat in half, thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the top two notes are going to hit on the count and the bottom note's going to hit on the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now that we're thinking in eighth notes, you can also add a little bit more rhythm to the left hand, just hitting on the final eighth note before the chord changes. So 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Another super optional detail is it sounds like sometimes on the E minor they hit a little F sharp, just to add a little dissonance there. Not on every single one, but just kind of sneaking it in on one of the hits. And then, so for that C, D, G, I'm going to hit octaves there. That's really emphasized on the recording. And then maybe I didn't love you. If you want to add that, quite as often as I could have. Okay. And then on this C here, little things. You can hear the piano just on the second count add in a D, so like a sus2 or just to add to. Just gives a little bit more color there. Said and done. And then I think that is it for the additions. I'll play through everything we've got so far in just a moment, but now that we've got that eighth note pattern going on in the right, I want to take a look at the intro we skipped over. So here's the chords for the intro. It's just two measures of G. So you could just do this. 2, 3, 4 before launching into the verse. Maybe but the bass does something kind of cool. Here's what I'm going to do for the intro. It's going to sound like this. Maybe I didn't treat you. Okay, so I'm going to start the first measure of G on this higher G here in the left hand. 2, 3, 4, 1. So on beat 4, I'm going to hit the fifth of the chord. That's the D. So a fifth above the root. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to be on beat 4, and then 1. I'm going to hit this lower G. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So I'm going to just do the same thing, the fifth and the root down in the low octave. So that super low G can ring into the first measure of the first verse. Maybe I didn't treat you. So we let that low note ring out, and then just on that last little, go back up to this octave for the rest of the bass line to follow. Okay, slow playthrough of the intro and first verse, and then we will keep cruising into the chorus. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I could have. Little things I should have said and done. I I just never took the time. You were always on my mind. Okay, let's do that chorus. Here are the chords for that, and we will build this up in a few levels of difficulty. So for most of this, I am going to be doing octaves in my left hand. Of course, you can just do single bass notes. I'd probably do it in this octave if that were the case. But we've got this D major chord here. I'm going to come here and do D, F sharp, A, so root position D. And then we've got 2 counts of D here with a dash, and then on the third count, D over E. So just stepping up the E bass note octaves, and then D over F sharp. That of course is going to be leading into the G. So D to D over E, D over F sharp, G. You're going to do root position G this time, so not the inversion like before. And then this is really similar. We got G to G over A, G over B, and we're going to land in C like this. So I'm going to keep my first finger on G and do C and E up here. So a different inversion of C, and we're just coming up to this octave bass note here. We'll finish the rest of the line in a minute, but I want to really focus in on these first 2 measures. In each of these measures where the bass line walks up, on the second count, we're going to play on every 8th note. So it's going to be D, 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? And then for G, same thing, G, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And that syncs up really nicely with the vocals. So you might not want to count if you're singing along, just hang it on the singing. 1, you were always on my mind. And then the backup vocals go, you were always on my mind. So the last detail I want to add here, and this is optional, if you can make the stretch, rather than doing the D chord like this, 1, 3, 5, you can do it 1, 2, 3, and with your 5th finger play the high octave. You can hear the piano doing that on the recording, and it feels really big and exciting. You were always on my mind. And then same thing here, we can hit the high octave G. You were always on my mind. So let's finish up the line here. We're going to go to D, and at this moment the energy drops off just a little bit. I'm going to go to single bass notes, so 4th finger on this D. I'm going to do an inversion on this D here. F sharp, 2nd finger on A, 5th finger on D. So we're kind of stepping down from that C inversion in the right hand, stepping up to the D in the left hand, and then finally we're going to land on G before C, D. So that's 2 counts of G and then C on B. 3, 4. Okay. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Couple more details. First off, I haven't mentioned the sustain pedal yet. Throughout this song, throughout the verses, we're going to be holding down the sustain pedal, doing quick little lifts every time the chord changes. But I do want to add that for this chorus, you're going to want to do a lift on every bass note. Otherwise, it's going to get too muddy. So 1, 2, and lift, and lift, and lift. 2, and lift, and lift, and lift. And then there's this little detail, if you want to add it here, where once we hit the D here, we just step down in 6ths, which is the outside note of this particular inversion of D. But you can just do the outside note, step it down to E and C. That is the moment where we land on the G chord. And notice that if you step down 6 like that, those are the outside notes of the G voicing we've been using. So again, that last part. You were always on my mind. You could do the rock there. Maybe I didn't hold told you. Okay, we're now in the second verse. Here are the chords for the second verse. Notice it is the same as the first verse. The lyrics are different, but you can play this exactly like we did the first verse. But here I will show you how to take this to the next level with some of the decorations and variations you hear on the recording. And those really start happening here in the second verse. So the main thing is these little 16th note melodies that happen in the right hand. So we need to think in 16th notes, dividing the beat in 4, thinking 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. And most of these little melodies happen 3, 4 E and really they can be anything. 3, 4 E and a, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and a, or it could be da da da, or even da da da. They vary it a lot throughout. So this is where it's really helpful to know the scale you're in, so you don't, go or hit a wrong note. But if you include these, have some fun with it, and you don't have to necessarily do it the same way every time. Maybe I didn't hold you all those lonely, lonely times. They don't do it as much in this part. And I guess I never told you. Okay, this part is really optional, but throughout the rest of the song, a lot of the second time through the chord progression, when we have this E minor happening and then the G over D, they go up to a higher inversion on this E minor. And they even do this little flourish on the end of the D over F sharp chord, where just on the last count, so 4, you can think like you're jumping your right hand up to the second inversion of D major, so A, D, and F sharp, but we'll hit the bottom 2 notes first, and then on that 16th note pattern, 4 E, and step up to that top note on the E and then F sharp. 4 E and 1, landing on this E minor chord up here, so B, E, and G, and then on the very next count, they always invert it down 1. Sounds really nice. So I would use my second finger on that inversion with a G, B, and E. So that's, and I guess I never told you. I'm so happy that you're mine. So after the ba, ba, we're gonna invert it down to this G, the G over D that we did before. Happy. You can do the little decoration there, that you're mine. Then we've got this A7 here, just like we did it before. And then for the rest of this, you can just do like we did it in the first verse. Second best. Maybe you're adding a little bit more of those 16th notes. Girl, I'm so sorry I was blind. So just like before, you were always on my mind. Cool. So then we're in the second chorus. Chords look like that. You can play this exactly like the first chorus. The only thing I would say is this chorus goes into the bridge, which is a pretty climactic part of the song. So just at the end of the chorus, when we have the you were always on my mind, for the C, D, I might do octaves just to get more power going into the bridge, because I am going to use octaves on the bridge. Tell me that your sweet love hasn't died. Okay, so here are the chords for the bridge. It should look pretty familiar. You're doing a lot of the same chord progression as the verse, but the chords are moving faster here. So 2 counts of G for tell, stepping down to D over F sharp, E minor, G over D. Now, you can totally do this next part the way we did it for the voicing in the right hand on the C and the G over B, but the piano does do slightly higher inversions here. So on the C, I'm going to do this. So invert it up 1 higher, E, G with the second finger, C in the right hand, and then G over B like this. So the same way we've been doing it, but usually earlier in the progression. And then for this A minor, we're not doing the A minor 7 this time. We're gonna do it like that. So C, E with second finger, and A there. And then you can do D like that. And by the way, this will sound more powerful if you do lower octaves on the, starting on the G. Tell me. The problem is it starts to get too low, so what I would do is like hop up to the D here, but it's kind of just a lot to remember, so I'm just gonna do it high. Okay, and it does repeat back and do that progression again. You can do it the same way twice, or you can totally do the high inversion, hopping down, G over D, and then you would finish it the same way with that higher inversion of C there. Satisfied. Well, let me play through that whole bridge. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and tell me. Throwing in a lot of those 16th notes. Tell me that your sweet love hasn't died. I like that one there. Give me one more chance to keep you satisfied. Okay, so landing on a G there, that's going to be the start of the solo / verse 3 section. Here's what it looks like. This is essentially another verse, but with the first line missing. So it starts with the line that ends in the A7, and no singing here for this line. It's a little bit of a guitar solo. And I'm chilling out here, bringing it back to just single bass notes, not doing as many as the decorations. And then A7. On this A7 here, I might do in the left hand what the bass does on the recording. This is totally optional, but you can do this on any of the A7s if it feels kind of like dead space or you want to hear a little something more. There's this little bass line that sounds like this. So it's going to be root, 5th, 7th, 9th from the A there. You can do 1, 2, 1, and then maybe crossover there. You do want to do some pedal lifts so it doesn't get too muddy. Okay, and then the singing returns, and it's just like it was at the end of the first verse. Little things I should have said and done, I just never took the time. You were always on my mind. Okay, so we're in the final chorus here. Here's the chords for that. It's a lot like the other two choruses, but it does end a little differently. Notice that we get a full measure of C and then the D at the end of it. So we've got, you were always on my mind. You were always on my... So just kind of rocking out there on the C for the full measure. Always on my mind. So again, this D is not going to do the thing. We're just going to hang out on it. So landing on this G here is the beginning of the outro. Here's the chords to the outro. Notice there are no chords that weren't in the first verse, and you could do all the inversions that we did in the first verse and just keep it simple. Of course, they're moving twice as fast here. So 2 counts of G, 2 counts of D over F sharp. I am gonna do octaves in the left hand, the higher octaves, and I am gonna do some of the higher inversions that we've been working on in some of the sections. I'm gonna do the... do the higher inversion of C here, do this inversion of G over B before A minor 7 D. So this is a little different here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just one count of A. You can hit it kind of staccato. Hit D on count 2, 3, 4. And this just kind of rings out. This is where we have the "You were always on my mind." So we'll talk about that ending with the G in a second. But if you want to go all out with the piano decorations as you hear on the recording, I'll show you exactly what I hear though. So we've got G. I think there's a decoration there. I hear it there. So at the top of that chord on the B, A, B there. And then for this C, back and forth on G and F sharp. And then I hear the exact same one again. Okay. You were always on my mind. So we're going to go back to just this nice rocking on the G inversion like that. And this is how I'm going to end the song here. We can basically do it like the intro, if you like. I'm going to end it like that. I'm going to do lower, just root position G major chord at the end. So this is where the Willie Nelson version ends. I think is a really good stopping point for the song. But on the Elvis recording, it kind of starts going around again to the first verse. Maybe I didn't treat you. And it does the first couple of lines of the first verse, just every time ending on the C, not doing the A7. Then it does a couple lines of the second verse, but then the recording fades out. This feels like this really optional extended outro that the fade out doesn't make sense solo piano. So I'm going to take the cue from Willie Nelson's version and just end it here on this G. But you can totally expand it a bit if you want. Okay, that is everything. I am now going to do a full playthrough so you can see how all these parts fit together in the full song. And I'm going to be adding in those 16th note decorations as the song goes on. I'm going to do some of those higher end versions of the E minors and everything like that. But you can keep it simple, no decorations, voice all the chords and inversions the way we do in the first verse for the rest of the song. There's really not that many chords in the song. If you enjoy this video, give it a like. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and click the bell so you know when I put out more videos like this one. All right, here's my version of Always on My Mind. Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I could have. Little things I should have said and done, I just never took the time. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Maybe I didn't hold you all those lonely, lonely times. And I guess I never told you I'm so